Welcome to Simplify to Scale, a show dedicated to helping you scale a high impact and high profit business that you love without all of the complexity and chaos that can keep you trapped in the day-to-day. I'm your host, Krista Grasso, and with decades of scaling experience, I know what actually works and what's just hype. So if you are done with all of the one-size-fits-all scaling advice and all of the overnight success promises, and instead you want proven practical strategies that will help you simplify operations, elevate your leadership, amplify profits, and scale sustainably, let's dive in and get started. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Simplify to Scale show. All right, she's back. If you remember Kim Woods from past episodes of the podcast, and because she's awesome and I talk about her all the time, Kim is back with us today. And I'm really excited for today's topic and to kind of dig under the covers a little bit of her new book, because not only are we going to be talking about what it's like to become a millionaire and cross into the seven figures in this new era that we're in, but also we're going to be talking in a little bit about her strategy on the book launch, which is as unique as she is, and I absolutely love it, and you will too. So if you aren't familiar with Kim, and if you don't know her from prior episodes, A, go back and listen to the prior interviews, but B, let me tell you a little bit about her, and then we're going to dive in and get started. So Kim Woods is the new Era Millionaire Maker. Her mission is to help you live your soul mission and usher you into the new era that we are now in. She combines 25 plus years of C-suite business growth strategies with the ancient wisdom of astrology to align business owners with their soul mission and break through outdated success paradigms, which is a lot of what she talks about in her new book. She is the host of Your Star Path to Success, which you will hear a recent episode number 200 with me on her podcast. So make sure you check that out as well if you don't already listen to her show. And she is the creator of the Rich and Powerful Leaders Academy for the visionary rebels who are ready to lead boldly in alignment with their soul's genius. So Kim, welcome. I'm so excited you're back.
I am so excited to be talking to you. I mean, we're in the time of the book launch, right? So my energy is heightened. I'm from Boston, so I might talk fast. I might talk a little bit faster even. So just everybody get ready because we're going to zoom along, just the way these energies are zooming along.
If you listened to last week's podcast episode, which I recorded today, I finished that episode in like 10 minutes. I talked so fast. I'm like, I hope they do not have me on 2x speed because there is no way anyone is going to understand what I'm saying.
That's the thing, internal 2x. We'll be internal 2x. So you don't need to, fast forward the recording, right?
Yeah, slow us down today. But all right, first things first, I have to go here first because it cracks me up. You know you are on to something good when all of a sudden everyone and their brother and their second cousin and 15th cousin twice removed is using the name that you came up with. So you coined New Era. I don't even know how many years ago now was it?
So it was 5 or 6 years. It was like late 2019, early 2020, somewhere in that time frame.
Absolutely. And you have like how many different New Era domains? All of them?
Like 200.
The only one I have is Scaling in the New Era because it's for the work that we do together. But now everywhere you go, everyone, including a lot of the big names, are all talking about the new era. So it cracks me up every time I see it. But because the new era is now becoming like a trendy buzzword, who knew that you were going to set this trend? You probably did. But why don't you define for us how you define the new era in this context?
Yeah. So, I mean, the reason why it's caught on is because the stars always will give the indication, it's even prefacing economic trends and, financial trends and business industry trends. And so when I looked at the stars back at the top of 2021, actually, it was at the very end of 2020. And when I looked at them, it was like 2015, you know what I mean? And I had New Earth talk, conversation, which some people are still saying that too, but that's kind of more the feminine intuitive side. And we're the blend of both, right? So we always blend that feminine and masculine. And in doing that, it came out of my mouth this new era. And you're right, having to define that. What that means to me is that there is an approach that doesn't work. Like everything's outdated. Everything that used to happen and happen well for people now doesn't work. And we can say very, practically about, oh, the ads on Facebook, or oh, the algorithms on Instagram, or oh, LinkedIn now has video is the biggest thing. No, now it's infographics is the biggest thing. I mean, we can wrap our minds around that and then say, hey, oh, AI is like making SEO not work, right? So these are the practical things that are here now, which is why I think people are actually using the term. But when you look at it through the lens of the future, you don't have any practical application of it. You have to actually feel it. You have to say, okay, what would it look like to start talking about the new era? What's going to be different? And what I was feeling and the stars were telling me is that the masculine traditional ways of ever expanding growth, of reaching for things that are competitive, that are transactional, those are going to start dropping away. And what's going to start to arise is that more collaborative, influential, that more nuanced connection on one level. And then that more intuitive instinctual one on another, but yet very unique to you. It must be precise and be aligned. And that's where the alignment comes in from the feminine and the precision comes in from the masculine.
Well, I do want to say one of the things that drew me so much to your work, aside from you just being one of my favorite humans on earth and being awesome, is the fact that you very much focus on blending the feminine and the masculine. And I see so many people get very polarizing about it, right? They go to such an extreme, like the masculine way doesn't work, you have to be feminine. And it becomes this like pendulum swing. And I love the fact that you look at the strengths of both and you blend both. So can you talk a little bit more about that?
Oh, definitely. So the reason why there's been a pull apart, I mean, we can see it when we think about things geopolitically. We can see it when we think of like opinions. We can see it when we see people coming through factions and through my group think versus my individual thought, right? What did I say at the top of 2024? I said it's going to be much easier to be at the extremes than it is going to be at the middle. And here it is continuing in 2025. The reason for that is that we must appreciate each distinctively before we can blend them well together. So for a millennium, we've been very masculine focused. And here's the thing, it's not bad until it's bad. Anything like same with the feminine, it's not bad until it's bad, right? So I'm going to do an example of both. The masculine is unbelievably wonderful and really strong when it is achievement minded and production oriented until it becomes drier than dust and transactional and not relational. The feminine side is beautifully, intuitively aligned and really like synchronicity, like in the flow until it becomes overly indulgent and I'll be honest with you, a little bit whiny, and then doesn't actually come out and show up. So there's positives and negatives to everything. And when you blend them, what you can do is you can rely on the strengths of each. And so you can minimize those negative tendencies.
Yeah, I love that so much about your work. And the other thing that I love that I think is really unique and is interesting in the way you approach the book too, is the way that you go into the signatures. And I know when you've been on the podcast in the past, we've talked a little bit about it. So again, if you didn't listen to the last episode, go check it out. And if you did, if you can recap people a little bit about the signatures. But the lens that I loved, because I thought the book was absolutely incredible. And I think everybody absolutely needs to get a copy. But the fact that you could have gone the path that most people do, which is more general knowledge that someone has to figure out how to apply to themselves. And instead, you made it very deeply personal based on your signature. So can you share a little bit more about that and maybe even touch on some of the fun movie movie references?
Oh, 100%. Oh yeah, yeah. We're gonna so have fun, right? So here's the reality. This book has been, this is what happens with me. I'm an intuitive visionary, as are you, right? So we'll have lots of ideas and they're really, really inspirational and they're very future oriented. So we have two issues as an intuitive visionary. One is to be able to capture the idea that happens to be available to other people, not just to us, right? So there has to be some practical application to it. And the other one is to stop the idea flow long enough that people can catch up. And so with this book, this particular book, I had a completely different iteration of it. And I was like, it's not right. It was what, 2023, top of 2024. I knew I wanted to hit it. I knew I wanted to capture the year of 2024 and 2025. And it was like, too bad. Like literally too bad. It's not the right book. So I went and I said, okay, if I were to put that to aside and come into it in a different way, I'm an astrologer, Krista. I spend a lot of time on the stars. I could write an astrology book. This isn't that though. Like that's not helpful to anybody. There's beautiful people writing wonderful astrology books. I'm not here to teach astrology. What I'm here to do is to help you live your soul mission. So if you happen to be an astrologer and I talk astrology, great, you're going to be able to capture the information. It doesn't work that way. Wearing your own energy is what the key is. So for me to shed like all the astrological and the cosmic, only take the nuggets out of it, it's a 300-page book. There's only 27 pages of astrology in it. Right. So like, and I go into the flirty fun of like, oh, Neptune is, is the guy in the van, that's getting toasted in the parking lot, in the high school parking lot. Right. So I do it in a really fun way. I did that on purpose because I wanted that base to be, this is terra firma. We have entered the new era. Here's the proof of it. If you followed anything like that's at least bit esoteric, you'll understand that. But I wanted you to be able to wear the book. I wanted you to be able to live your mission. Now it's a book, right? So we're not going to go through healing modalities. We're not going to be able to, channel the voice of your soul and things like that. But what could I give you that would be very practical that you could fit in your back pocket? And that's what I did. So out of this 300-page book, there are 6 signatures. And I'll explain what they are in a minute. And in those 6 signatures, there's probably like 35 pages of advice for each one sprinkled throughout the book. So think about it. Like I wrote 6 books in one is essentially what I did.
Mhm.
So that's what I did, right? And so for your signature, you want to just keep rambling?
Oh, go roll with
Okay,
this.
keep going. Okay, okay. So for your signatures, what I did is people have wanted to archetype them. They've wanted to say their soul signatures. I even write this in a book. Wouldn't it be easier to say soul signature than wait for it? Intuitive success signature? Sure. That flows right off the tongue. I love saying that. But yet that's what it is. It's you to be intuitively aligned with what success means to you based on your own energetic signature. How do you enter the world? How do you make decisions? How do you interact with other people? That's what these signatures represent. So for you and I being intuitive visionaries and for wise strategists, we enter the world through our thoughts. We will come to something like when we first get something, we'll be like, what do I know about this? And then we'll address something. We like to talk, we like to connect. Wise strategists will like to research a little bit and then come to it. For collaborative explorers and ruling warriors, they're going to enter through connections. Who do I know? Who do I know that could help with this? What group can I join and be part of so that I can, understand where I fit in versus where they fit in? That's those 2 signatures. For the loving alchemist and for the creative superstar, it's action or inaction. I either take action initially or it's a reaction, right? Or I respond accordingly. And so when you understand what those are, that's measuring how you're tracking in alignment with your soul mission. It's a very different thing than a personality type, and it's a very different thing than a soul signature.
Yeah, it's so fascinating. I talked about this the last time you were on the podcast, but you answer 12 questions. It's super quick. And as you're answering the questions, you're like, how on earth is this going to tell me what my signature is? And it is so ridiculously spot on. And we do this all the time because we did this with the keynote that we did in October too, is I can meet people now and I could tell you what their signature is because I know it. And then you'll be like, oh, they're a this. And I'm like, Of course, that explains so much. And
Hmm.
it is amazing how right on it is, considering that it's 12 simple questions.
Well, so this is where, I mean, I am going to get a little bit, on that feminine intuitive side is that, back in 2019, 2020, I knew I wanted to have a quiz. Quizzes were a big thing then, let's be perfectly clear. And I wanted one. I didn't really know what I wanted it to be. I thought it was going to be archetypal. I mean, I'm an astrologer, right? There's 12 archetypes. Like, of course I was going to think that. And then when it started coming forth and I started really kind of tasting it. And that's where it came on that methodology of, do you know, like, and trust yourself? That landed first. It's like, do I enter the world through my mind? Do I enter it through my heart? Do I enter it through my will? And I started really dancing with that for a while. And then all of a sudden, the quiz just completely downloaded. Like, I mean, it was a complete channeled, divinely inspired. Let's just say that. And within a week, those questions came and the signatures came and all the things, and it's held true. Now, granted, we do have a handful of people that keep taking the quiz constantly, and then they literally keep emailing me and saying, or Linnell saying that's my admin. I'm now getting the wrong emails. I'm like, because you took the quiz again. Like, someone who's near and dear to us just did this, by the way. I'm like, literally, she and I will be talking. I'm like, no, she's a collaborative explorer. Let's just switch her back, and then she'll get the right emails.
I think I know
Legit.
exactly who you're talking about.
You do know exactly who I'm talking about.
Too funny. All right. So you mentioned know, like, and trust.
Mhm.
And so that's a big theme in a lot of what you talk about in the book as well. So can you dive into that more? Because we hear that term in and of itself a lot, but how do you mean it? Because it has a really unique and deep meaning the way that you approach it.
Yeah, so ironically, I was on somebody's podcast in early 2020 and she was talking about love. And that's her thing, right? So I was like, great, I was talking about love. But I'm a business person, right? So I didn't really want to dance in the love conversation for that long. So I was trying to bring the conversation back to business, right? Because, granted you're on a podcast, you want to kind of like, position yourself well. And so what I was saying to her was I went from love to like. You know what I mean? That was my first thing. And then I came right out of my mouth, Krista, like so much so that I was like, oh my God, this is a big deal, right? I don't even remember the podcast because I was like, oh my God, this is a big deal. And I was saying to her that the marketing and sales, factor that we all know is customers need to know, like, and trust you before they'll work with you. True. And what I said to her, it was like that, yes, that's true. However, it's more important for you to know, like, and trust yourself. And then when you do, you make better decisions, you attract the right people, you start, making money because you're working with the right people and you understand where you fit in the world. I said something like that. And so I then walked away from that and I realized, of course, it's way more important for you to know, like, and trust yourself because when you do, you're unwavering. You're not following somebody else's success methods. You're not trying to chase dimes. You know what I mean? You know what your worth is, so you're appropriately matched your pricing matrix and your offering, sweet, right? It just goes hand in hand. And so all my work is based on that. And it just held true. I mean, hundreds of clients, thousands, tens of thousands of people have taken the quiz. I mean, it's something that is inviolable. I mean, it's like here to stay.
Yeah, I agree. And so, how do we leverage all of this, everything that we've been talking about so far, for those who maybe are trying to break into their first seven figures, or those who are already there and they're trying to take it to multi seven or even eight figures? Like, how do we take all of this new era energy and change and everything and alignment and really step into it in a way that feels much more aligned to our soul mission instead of all the things we feel like we need to be doing?
Yeah, and this is where it's the hardest thing. Like, it's so hard. I'm getting chills right now because it always goes back to you. You have to start with you. And that sounds really delicious when you're, sitting on a beach reading a really cool book. And it sounds really delicious when you're, in a group and you're in a journaling session or a reflection session. And then and it's Monday morning, you're answering all your emails and you're trying to figure out what your, marketing messaging is for the next month or, whatever's happening, right? So to hold yourself at the center, to give yourself permission to be you uniquely and brilliantly is really the key. And that's what all my work is about. I mean, if you think about it, I just keep stripping layers of conditioning and expectation and norms. I just keep stripping them away for people because we want to get to the core of who you are. So that's when you come into my world and you're in the one-on-one container or you're part of my Rich and Powerful Leaders Academy. But before that, this is why I do so many things in my podcast. This is why I wrote this book because you could for $9.99 on Kindle, as of the 25th of June, you could get this book that is 300 pages, which is nothing more than on everything. It's everything. It's a love letter to you. That's basically what it is. And so when you go through it, I take you through what the new era means. I walk you through how to feel and how to think about and how to take action with the masculine and feminine energies. I fully describe knowing, liking, and trusting yourself with stories and with examples. I even put the quiz in the book itself if you don't want to take it online. I then went through like the cosmic destiny, your grand vision, your soul mission through the stars with your signatures. And then we get to the practical tools. I go through making sure you're going in the right direction, making sure you're attracting the right people, and making sure you're relying on the right resources. Because that's the key with the strategy laying in. That's the masculine side, laying in with that feminine energetic side. And I marry the two.
Yeah, it's brilliant and it's so well done. I mean, really, truly, I think it's one of the best business books because instead of it being like, follow this system, do this thing, it's truly about knowing, liking, and trusting yourself. So you're choosing the right strategies without all of the other self-imposed things that we feel like we need to do or we should do. Or are you trying this new tactic or tool or thing? It's just like you, which is what I love so much about your work. So you did it beautifully in the pages of the book.
Thank you.
All right, so something else I wanted to talk about when you and I were talking about the book launch itself and we're diving into your approach, I loved the way that you were thinking about the book launch. And to me, it just beautifully highlights your kind of soul mission. So I thought it was worth sharing is I'm a part of a lot of book launches and I talk to and I know a lot of people and everybody's trying to get on a bestsellers list and everybody's pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing and trying to sell as many copies as possible. And when I asked you about it, you said, I don't care about that. I don't want people to buy the book. I want people to read the book. I don't care about the purchase and then it just sits and never gets read. I want people to actually read it. And that really stood out to me because you have a pretty big goal. Didn't you say you want 1 million people to read the book?
Mm-hmm. I
But the
do.
difference is you want them to read it, not to just buy it. And
Mm-hmm.
that to me, I think is brilliant because in that approach, you're not chasing one of the big lists or anything very intentionally. And so, why do you think 1 million people should read the book and what to you is it going to do for them?
Yeah. So the first thing I have to say is that this is my ninth book, right? So I think that has something to do with it, right? So I've been on the bestseller list. I've won the awards. I've done all the things. So I don't have that as a marker. I just don't have it as a marker, right? So I think that's helpful. It was really easy. As a matter of fact, Amy, I'm just going to say Amy Collette is the person that I hired to be my book coach, particularly so that she would let the book be what the book was meant to be. She never said to me, she always said to me, what can your readers understand? What do your readers want? Of course, but it was never about sales. And I appreciated that so much. So from the birth of this book to the evolution of the book, to the landing of the book, to the writing of the book, to the now the availability of the book, it's always been about what does the book want to be at this time in this new era. And it was very much, I love how you said somebody trying to break into six figures, but somebody also a billionaire, because it speaks to, oh, gee, am I really satisfied? Do I understand my intuition? Am I really aligned with am I on the right mountain, right? Like, I mean, I climbed the mountain. Am I on the right mountain, right? So I might have 8 or 9 figures, but if not on the right mountain, is it sustainable? And this book speaks to all of that, which I really, really love. I want the book, I want people to be able to walk away with like goosebumps and chills sometimes because things that just landed so much. I want them to be able to walk away with 1 or 2 tips per section that they can start integrating and employing that will actually help them in their life and business. I want them to fully understand what their signature is and understand it so much that they're now curious about what other people's signatures are. You and I both know that our or at least my most successful clients are those who not only use their own signature, but use it for their teams and for their clients and for their vendors. And it illuminates so many things about how to communicate, how to make decisions, how to work with people, even too much of like your client roster. Like I'm an intuitive visionary, I adore intuitive visionaries, but I don't want all intuitive visionaries. Like that would drive me crazy. We would move so fast, we would never land, right? So understanding that is really important. So I want people to have more of an understanding of how to speak to their soul, more of an ability to align with their feminine side and not just sink into the spa self-care, in like over I can say sometimes overly indulgent. I know I've mentioned that before at the top of the podcast. I also don't want them to forget their masculine side because, if you understand something and it's really cool for you and you've journaled about it and you have an idea around it and you just let it sit there, is it real? Does it matter? Does it help you at all? I want people to fully integrate. And again, I always say this to fit it in your back pocket. So it just becomes so naturally for you that you don't even have to question it. You're like, oh, of course, I'm going to make this decision like this. Boom. Oh, of course, I'm going to work with this person. Of course, this person I'm never going to work with. This is just not a good idea. I want them to be able to walk. I want them to be able to walk in this world.
Yeah. All right. So tell people more about you and your work and where people can find you, find your book. Give us all the things.
All the things. Okay. So now I have 200 domains about the new era, right? So the book is neweramillionaire.com. You can go right there, you can get all the things about the book. If you want to find me because you're like, yeah, the book, a book schmuck, right? I'll tell you not for very long. You're not going to be like that because so many people are going to be reading it and they're going to be talking about it. But it's kimwoods.com. And if you want to take the quiz, right now it's still on my website as yourstarmaptosuccess.com because it's still living with my podcast. It's coming to be neweraquiz.com. It's the same quiz, everybody, by the way. It's the same quiz. You just enter it either with the book face or you enter it with the podcast face. And they're both great. And they do, yes, very much correlate. But one of the funnels assumes that you've read the book. So I'm going to be talking about, hey, did you catch chapter 6? So, new era quiz. Did you catch chapter 6? Whereas your star map to success is going to be talking about the stars and it's going to be talking about, how you can work with me, which is read the book, take the quiz, come into a 6-week wealth code accelerator. Then, because that's a prerequisite to my Rich and Powerful Leaders Academy, you can dance in an unbelievably supportive and successful and effective group, or you can hop in the one-on-one container with me, and I will channel the voice of your soul.
I love it. And I will just say, I do that with Kim, and it's magical and amazing and incredible. Awesome. All right. So I'm super curious to hear your answer to this question and how maybe it's evolved since the last time you were on the show. But today, right now, how do you scale smarter, not harder, and keep things lean in your business?
For me, it's all about being in the right rooms right now. And so I don't think I would have answered that the last time I was on the call because I've been asking every morning, how is it easy? Because that's not one thing I do. Intuitive visionaries, not so much with the ease. We're like, oh my God, so many ideas. This is so great. I can do them all. But I've been asking for the last like 2 or 3 months now, how is it easy? And what's presented itself is being in the right rooms. And so that's what I'm doing right now. So I'm meeting the right people, I'm having the right conversations, and I'm going to the right next steps for me.
I love it. All right, there is so much more we could talk about in the book. There's so much more we could talk about in general. But if you were to leave everybody with just a few final tips on anything that they should be considering and doing to become a millionaire or that multi-millionaire billionaire in the new era based on their starting point, what would you say?
Again, I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. It always starts with you. The minute you become 1 degree separated but from being true to you, that is going to start creating such a chasm because things are moving so fast now. The next 7 years are going to move at the speed of light. And so that little tiny 1 degree could become 100 degrees in about 10 minutes. So start with you. Do never forgo yourself.
Brilliant. All right, Kim, thank you so much for being back on the podcast. I encourage all of you to definitely go get the book. It's under $30 if you get a hardcover. It's $10 if you get Kindle. Like it is really brilliant. And I'm so super curious to hear what your signature is. As Kim shared, we're both intuitive visionaries. I have some ideas about what you might be, but I'm curious. So take the quiz and send one of us a message. Let us know. I'm dying to know what you are if you're listening to this podcast. I suspect. but we'll see. So anyway, Kim, thanks so much for being here. I'm sure you will be back again, and you will find all the links and everything down below in the show notes. See you again next week. Thanks so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Simplify to Scale. If you'd like to take things further, I invite you to join me for my Scale Smarter, Not Harder interactive workshop. Head to strategicopsinstitute.com/scale smarter to get registered. Not only will we dive into what might be keeping you trapped in the day-to-day, but you'll have the opportunity to ask me your questions live. If you got value out of today's episode, I'd love if you'd take a moment and rate and review the show so more businesses can learn to scale more simply and sustainably. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode, and I'll see you again next week.